Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend? Oh, I can't wait for the YouTube people to watch this. You muted yourself and you're talking like an idiot with yourself on mute. Yes.
No.
It's been a long time since you've made that mistake.
I know. Dang it. Okay. Winner is OU men's hoops. Just like we all picked. Go up, click off another top 25 victory on the road against Iowa State. Did not see that one coming, admittedly, but it was huge. And I got to say, Jacob Groves, probably the difference with the night that he had, or the day
probably
that he was.
The guy has been borderline unplayable for, it felt like a month, and all of a sudden, yes, Ted, he was the difference in the game. He played well. That we were not used to that. I'll be straight up.
I took it upon myself to go back and view the statistics. Going into the game against Iowa State, he was 3 for his last 20 attempts from 3. And that was a 10-game stretch. And he had 6 offers throughout that stretch. So to come out and go 4 or 5 from 3, I'd say that was the difference.
TJ Otzelberger had to have been furious. I have to assume Jacob Groves torching them from 3 was not a large part of their game plan when they were prepping for that one.
The amount of times this year that we've had someone off the bench score double figures has been very, very small. So yeah, I would say that's the case. And credit Oklahoma to go out and score 61 and win by 11. That's pretty impressive.
If you were a fan of shots going in, other than watching Jacob Groves, that was not the game for you. I feel like that's becoming a theme with Oklahoma games. 50 points in your own building. That's brutal, man.
They were 18 of 58.
They shot 17 more shots than their opponent and lost by double digits.
It's crazy, man. It's nuts. They missed. They were 10 of 17 from the free throw line, shot 58% as a team from the free throw line. Jeez, that's a bad, bad day. That's like
OU turned the ball over like crazy. It's still, they just couldn't hit shots. But hey, man, a win's a win.
A win's a win. They out-rebounded them, of course. That's what happens whenever you miss like 40 shots in a day.
We're trying to compliment the basketball team right now, and I feel like we're doing a bad job of it.
Well, hey.
It's been a frustrating season.
It's crazy that this team still has a losing record. And if you just look at some of the victories they have, it's like, how in the world does this team have a losing record? But they've been inconsistent. I mean, they've earned it, but hey, still watching, still enjoy the team. Not the prettiest basketball at this moment, but you do what you got to do to win, man.
And they did. That was, hey, Hilton has been, Iowa State has been awesome in that building. That was one of the more surprising results this weekend in college basketball. But
it's I mean, that place in particular, but really anywhere in the Big 12, it is hard to get a road victory.
Except for in Norman.
Except for in Norman.
Sorry, I had to. But congrats on the wins, boys. That was great. Great performance. All right, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I'm going to go with the Pac-12. It feels like the Pac-12 is teetering on the verge of obscurity. Maybe they're already there. I don't know. USC, UCLA going to be gone after this coming season. They're trying to get a media rights deal done and in place. And I think they are like they're in a really bad spot to negotiate. And I think that they are holding themselves in way too high of regard right now. It was weird how this whole thing played out. So last week, I think it was Friday, Brett McMurphy sent a tweet out that said that the Pac-12 media deal still being negotiated. Apple, who, you know, a lot of people have said that this thing is going to have to lean very heavy on streaming. And Apple was one of the players there. Apple is yet, this is per Brett McMurphy, Apple is yet to offer anything to the Pac-12, but Ion TV, which I'd never heard of before, had made an offer and was in the running for the Pac-12 media rights. And it was weird because Stuart Mandel came up like about an hour later and said, no, they're not. They're, per my sources, Ion TV is not in negotiations with the Pac-12. So I don't know what to believe. I tend to believe Brett McMurphy, but there's probably a lot of people that don't want everyone to know that Ion TV is like maybe leading the charge in getting the media rights deal, because that is a bad look for the conference. So I'm sure that some people wanted to shoot that down with Stuart Mandel, but I don't know what to believe other than I don't think the Pac-12 is in a very good spot.
I definitely don't think the Pac-12 is in a good spot, or else they would have a media rights deal done. And if they were in a good spot, they would have had it done before the Big 12 got theirs done. But Brett Yormark did what everyone said he was going to do, be hyper aggressive and get a deal done, and he got it done. Ted, I know you love a good conspiracy theory.
Yes.
Does it kind of feel like someone's sabotaging the Pac-12's media rights deal, floating some things out there? Because Brett McMurphy, I mean, that guy's been doing this for a really long time. He's got a lot of really good sources. Like, Brett has broken a lot of news over the years covering college football. A lot. I don't think he just invented that out of thin air.
Right.
So
and I guess a lot of people were trolling Stuart Mandel because there had been something else that Brett McMurphy had reported that Stuart Mandel said that it's not true, and it was. And so they all started bringing that back up. So I don't know what's happening out there, but you're right. It does feel like a bad spot. Like maybe some teams want to get out.
I can't imagine. And you got to remember, some people, I feel like some people tend to forget this, and maybe we can ask Joe Castiglione about this someday. And I think he should write a book about the whole OU ended up going to the SEC thing. I think the leadership at OU should write a book about that. I think that'd be fascinating. But I still believe one of, if not the biggest catalyst for OU eventually making that decision was the fact that the Big 12 went to Fox and ESPN and said, hey, we're ready to start negotiating the next deal. Like, we can do it early. Let's get this deal done. And Fox and ESPN said, no, we're good. We'll talk to you when the contract's up. I think that set some serious alarms off for the leadership at OU in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I bring that up, I can't imagine what the leadership at Washington and Oregon are thinking right now. Utah, they can't get a deal done, and it's playing out as publicly as it is right now.
It sounds to me like maybe everyone is already in on what's going to happen, except for the conference commissioner, kind of like the Big 12 situation, you know, like just kind of maybe asleep at the wheel, feel like you're in a much better spot than you are. And at this point, doesn't it feel really natural for the Big 12 to gather like the Arizona schools, Utah and Colorado?
Yeah.
To make them to get to that 16 number.
And that's kind of part of my theory. What if Brett Yormark's behind some of, if not all of this stuff,
Yeah.
and remember, his job is to do what is in the best interest of the Big 12 conference now and in the future. Right. And, we've talked about this a lot. Weakening the Pac-12 as much as possible is good for the Big 12's business. It just is.
He's already
So
said they're trying to expand. I mean,
open for business.
he's said it. He hasn't thrown any specific names out there, but he said that he's had the conversations. He's having conversations. So
I just don't know if you're Oregon and Washington, right? And if the Big Ten wanted them, they'd already be gone. That's just the truth, right? Now, Kevin Warren, I think he was going to be pretty aggressive with further expansion, but he's gone now, right? He's running the Bears. And they haven't even named the new Big Ten commissioner. So they can't aggressively expand without knowing who's going to be leading the conference. So it feels like an opportunity for the Big 12. It really does. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know this. There's a lot of conversations taking place between Pac-12 leadership, like the leaders of those schools, and Brett Yormark. Scott, those conversations have to be happening. There's probably no paper trail of them, but there's no doubt they have to be happening right now.
Have to, and it's I feel like it's going to go fast too. Whenever it happens, like it's not like we're gearing up for this thing to happen in 3, 4, 5 years. Just because the Pac-12 is in need of a deal, the Big 12's already signed one, and I'm sure, definitely because of the landscape, whenever they signed that new deal, the talk of expansion has to be pretty prevalent within that contract, right? I mean, because he has said that he's looking to add. So they've got to be set up, and the TV partners have to be set up to be able to welcome whoever is maybe in the conversation. Like, I'm sure that has taken place. So I feel like at some point the dominoes are going to fall, and it's all going to be set for that 24 season that has the expanded playoff. I feel like everyone already knows. It hasn't been made to the public,
Yeah. I can't imagine, if you're a fan of a Pac-12 school that's not Oregon or Washington right now, that you're feeling very good about the future of your program.
I know.
I mean, luckily we cover, one of the Blue Bloods, right? We played at one of the Blue Bloods like that. I can't imagine what a Washington State fan is feeling like right now. You know what I mean? An Oregon State fan.
Yeah. Especially as those teams have, I mean, I think the Pac-12 is going to be maybe the best conference, like the most exciting conference to watch this coming year. Like the way it all lines up for them, it's going to be incredibly competitive. They've got 8 good quarterbacks that are going to be in that conference this year.
And it may be on its deathbed.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years. They're family owned and operated, and they've got 9 full-service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. And no matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. They carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. You buy a new or used car from them. All you have to do is get all the manufactured recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive, axle, or transfer unit, they will cover the repair costs. What a deal. You can browse the entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. People, make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. All right, for my winner of the weekend, I thought about going with Tommy Fury. I only saw the highlights. I did not buy the fight, but I guess it's a big deal that he beat Jake Paul. A bunch of people are talking about it on the internet, so has to be a big deal, right?
I haven't seen it. Split decision, so I'm sure there's some controversy there.
In the highlights, I saw both guys clinching the other guy a lot. There was a lot of that, and I thought it was weird that it was in the highlight, but I guess there was a lot of clinching in the fight. Big clinching bout.
Love a clinching bout. That's awesome. Well, hey, congratulations to Tommy Fury, and go hit the gym a little bit more, Jake Paul. I guess. I don't know.
First loss.
First L.
Now I did see his post match interview. Didn't make any excuse. No, he was just like, yeah, lost. I mean, it was actually kind of refreshing.
Yeah. Well, gear up for the big rematch pay-per-view coming in 6 months.
He may have lost on the scorecard, but I bet you that dude made a boatload of money.
Jeez, it's crazy. I give the guy credit. Like, I don't know anything about him. I've seen a lot of things with the two brothers that are cringeworthy, but I credit the kid from going from an Instagram or YouTube star to when I say he looks like a legit fighter to me, you know, and he's been able to make a lot of money at it, which I guess is the most important thing. How much money can you make doing it? So
he'll keep boxing people. People keep buying it because I guess it's interesting.
There you go.
How infuriating does that have to be for like the really good boxers in the world?
I can't even imagine
that no one really wants to watch you and they want to watch Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. And you like, that has to be, that has to just,
like, to me, like, I don't know anything about boxing other than like, I've watched some boxing. I know a lot of the guys. I know a lot of the historical fights, like that stuff, like a general sports fan knows. But as far as like the science of it and the skill of it, I know nothing. And for the guys out there that have dedicated their life to becoming like very skilled in the craft of boxing and are trying to work their way up through the ranks and get noticed and get fights, I bet they're watching it saying like, these guys are horrible. Like, how is this happening that these guys are horrible? It'd be like, you know, the NFL watching the XFL, and the XFL, the guys are making $30 million a year, right? That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. It's gotta be infuriating.
I don't know. Hey, here's the reminder. All sports is entertainment. And if you can find a way to make it more entertaining, that's what people want.
Yeah. Absolutely. Speaking of entertaining, my winner of the weekend, OU softball. They're still the Queens, baby. And we told everyone to look out after that Baylor loss, right? Patty was going to light a fire under them. They went out there to the Mary Netter Collegiate Classic and beat the hell out of everybody. Wow. I mean, and the matchup we were all waiting for, number 2 Sooners against number 1 UCLA, and it was utter destruction. 14-0 in 5 innings, Ted. That was a bloodbath. I thought they were going to win, but I didn't see that coming. Whoa.
That was crazy. I saw someone made a highlight video of all the home runs set to the audio of, oh gosh, what's her name? I think she played at UCLA. Maybe she's one of ESPN's covers softball, talking about how Oklahoma, she thinks they're going to be good, but they're not going to be like they were.
Oh, Michelle Smith, the one she played at Oklahoma State.
No, wasn't
her.
It's not Michelle Smith. It's gosh. anyways, she's saying they're not going to hit 80 bajillion home runs like they did last year. And it's funny because the audio is played and it's just home run after home run after home run. It's really cool.
Yeah. What? Well, there were 6 of them.
Dropping
Ended up
bombs.
with 20 hits. Kenzie Hansen hit 2 bombs, 5 RBIs. Tiari Jennings, 4 RBI. But Storaka's the one
Healing.
that's the third pitcher on that squad. Are we sure?
Or 1A, 1B, and 1C, I guess. I don't know.
3-hit shutout against what was supposed to be the best team in the country.
Yeah, best team in the country. Yeah. Nuts.
I don't know much, but she looks legit to me.
Whew. Yeah.
It's a good weekend for OU softball, man.
If anyone thought, and maybe I was there a little bit too, just they've set the bar so impossibly high that if they don't come out like the first game of the year, first handful of games of the year and beat everyone 30-0, then it's like, what's wrong with these guys? But I think they've reminded everyone that they are who we thought they were.
Indeed. All right, for my loser of the weekend, thought about going with Thunder fans. SGA banged up, missed a couple games in a row. Thunder have lost a couple in a row. Thought it was a hip flexor. Now it's an abdominal strain. No timetable. Ted, I don't like it. The squad's trying to make the play in. SGA can't be getting hurt right now. These are important games. I'm frustrated.
Okay. This, to me, I want you to maybe talk me out of it, but it reeks of the late season phantom injury to play ourselves into a better draft position.
I think they're too far gone for that, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They'd have
you
to
want your best player playing, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it's not like if they're talking abdominal strain or hip flexor and they're not sure what it is. I hope it's not like a
sports hernia
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. When you hear those two things, that's exactly like every football guy's like, oh no. Yeah. But I just want to watch him play. Here's some hard-hitting analysis for you. Thunder, better basketball team when Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays. How about that?
That's a shock. I mean, I don't think anyone thought we'd end up in that place, but here we are. I think it's definitely true.
And I didn't think I'd be caring so much about them making the play in, but here I am. It's within reach. Might as well, man. Come on.
It's awesome to play like in a even to be like pretty far down the pecking order, to find yourself in a like that dramatic of a situation is pretty fun for a fan base.
And I would like to see some of these guys, like these young guys, that are going to be part of the core for a long time. I'd like to see how they react in that setting,
Yep. And I think it's also can light the fire, right? To get a taste and to be there. What was the Thunder before they really went on those runs? They played the Lakers, wasn't it, in the first round and gave them more of a test than people expected. And that kind of ignited that team for the coming years. That was kind of fun to watch.
We won them in the play-in. I just want to see it, but Shai's got to get healthy. All right, but for my loser of the weekend, I'm going with the ACC. You went with the Pac-12. I'm going ACC. So a few things here. First, Florida State Athletic Director Michael Alford had some interesting things to say over the weekend. He said, quote, something has to change regarding how far the ACC is falling behind the SEC and Big Ten from a revenue perspective, right? He also mentioned, had a little study done, Florida State brings 15% of the value of the ACC. They only get paid 7%. So it felt very, very calculated after them just having their ACC meetings. And then Clemson athletic director Graham Neff was asked basically, hey, if unequal distribution moving forward in the ACC was a want or a need. And how about this quote, Ted? In all candor, I put it as a need. Meaning he wants more money than everyone else in that conference because they've been carrying the flag for him. I think the big brands in that conference, right? And maybe they haven't had a ton of success recently. Certainly Clemson has. But you talk Florida State, Miami, and Clemson, right? Those are the big football brands. It's starting to feel like those schools feel like they're being held hostage by the ACC in that media rights deal that runs through 2036. They're all seeing these numbers from the Big Ten and from the SEC, and probably even from the Big 12, going, what the hell? And now I didn't know when this point would come, but the leaders of these schools are speaking out publicly about it, and they're starting to rock the boat. And 2036 is a long time from now. So I saw this and I was like, oh boy, things are getting weird out there in the old ACC.
Well, I bitched for years about the Big 12 and how schools like Kansas and maybe Tech at the time, I know they're playing better now, but how schools can bring nothing to the table, not improve their team, not put resources into their program, just go, 1-11, 3-9 year after year after year, but still get that $38 million payoff every year. And there's been enough schools now say like, OU and Texas is like, dude, enough is enough. Like, we're out of here. We're going somewhere else where it's taken seriously. And I don't blame Florida State at all. Some schools out there that are doing a lot of the work are not happy with the redistribution of wealth going on, bringing in 15% of the revenue and getting 7%. That doesn't last very long. Things are going to have to change.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if they change very quickly.
Timing is interesting.
Timing is it. 2024 feels like the year, right?
Yeah.
Where all of this stuff just happens at once. And maybe the best path forward for the ACC is, hey, they give Florida State, certainly Clemson, Miami, like the biggest brand, maybe they give them a little more. I'm sure those other schools in the ACC would be willing to negotiate, right? As opposed to those schools leaving for another conference.
They don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Especially when Alford happens to know down to the decimal point the amount of money it's going to require them to leave.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how much is it going to cost? It's funny that you asked that question. The number for us to leave, was 120 million.
It was a ton.
Yeah, it's a lot. But here's the thing. If you're bringing in 15% of the revenue, it's only 7% of what you're getting back. And you're locked in for how many more years? 12, 13 more years. The math isn't that hard to figure out that, okay, we can come up with 120 million or come up with what we need to finance this thing to get it done. It makes sense, like to go somewhere else perhaps and get a much bigger payout, or negotiate it in our current situation to where we get something that's a little more on the level of what we bring to the conference.
Yeah. He basically, in the article I read, he basically said, yeah, we can't just make $30 million less than these other schools each year and expect to compete.
That's right.
It's a pretty good point. It's so Pac-12, very interesting. ACC now, very, very interesting. And we're just chilling. We're going to be in the SEC. Stable as can be, baby. Let's go. Or so we think.
So we think. It is fascinating, though. I think a lot of people have long thought that the 4 super conference situation is really what makes sense. And I don't know how you get to that. Like if the Pac-12 is going to dissolve and you kind of split up the other teams, like I don't know, but Florida State starting to throw their weight around a little bit, and I'm sure anyone else who brings in more than what they're getting out at the final payout is going to start piping in too. So fascinating times, man.
Indeed.